My fiancé hid my grandpa's final voicemail, so I canceled the wedding and made sure she regretted it. I should have been excited. I was getting married in 2 months. The venue was booked, invitations were sent, and Rachel was constantly talking about the wedding, obsessing over every little detail. But I wasn't excited. I had just lost the most important man in my life. My grandfather raised me when my parents couldn't. He taught me how to throw a baseball, fix a car, and be a man worth respecting. When I got engaged, he was the first person I called. And now he was gone. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. My family had been sorting through his belongings, handling legal matters, trying to make sense of a life that had just ended. But my mind was stuck on something else, a voicemail. Earlier that day, my aunt had casually mentioned it. He left you a message, right? The one before he passed. But I hadn't received any message. My phone had been silent. Rachel walked into the room, humming to herself while checking something on her tablet, probably updating the guest list or rearranging the seating chart for the 100th time. She glanced at me and frowned. You're doing that thing again. I looked up. What thing? She sighed, like she was exhausted. The sad thing. You need to snap out of it. We have so much to do before the wedding. Something twisted inside me. My grandfather had died just weeks ago, yet Rachel acted like I was just in a bad mood. And now there was a voicemail, one I was never told about, one she was actively avoiding. I set my phone down slowly. Rachel, I said, keeping my voice calm. Did my grandfather leave me a message before he passed? Her eyes flickered for just a second, a brief moment of hesitation. Then she smiled. Let's not talk about that. It's depressing. And in that moment I knew exactly what she had done. I had known Rachel for years. I thought I understood her better than anyone. When we first got together, she was warm, supportive, always saying how lucky she was to have me. She loved surprises, always made little moments feel special. For our second anniversary, she set up a movie night with all my childhood favorites, complete with the junk food my grandpa used to sneak me as a kid. I thought she got me. I thought she understood how important family was. But then, I started noticing things. Small moments where her mask slipped. Like the time we visited my grandpa for the holidays. She acted sweet in front of everyone, complimenting the house, praising my aunt's cooking. But the moment we were alone in the car, she wrinkled her nose and said, God, your family is exhausting. I don't know how you deal with them. I laughed it off, thinking she was just tired. Or the time she threw a full tantrum because I told her I couldn't attend a wedding planning appointment. I had to take my grandpa to the doctor. You're prioritizing him over me, she said, crossing her arms like a child. He's sick, Rachel. And we're getting married, she shot back. That's important too. I had to convince her that taking care of my dying grandfather wasn't an attack on her. That was the first time I thought about leaving. But I ignored it because love meant compromise, right? Then my grandpa passed, and Rachel's true colors came out in full force. She didn't cry with me. She didn't hold me or ask how I was feeling. Instead, she got annoyed. At first, it was subtle. A sigh when I wasn't in the mood to talk about wedding invitations. A forced smile when I told her I needed space to grieve. Then it got worse. One night, I sat on the couch, scrolling through old photos of my grandpa on my phone, just trying to hold on to something. Rachel sat next to me and rubbed my arm. I hate seeing you like this, she whispered. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, it's been rough. She tightened her grip. It's just, I don't want this to affect the wedding, you know? I want you to be happy. I want it to be a celebration, not some sad event. I blinked at her. Rachel, my grandpa just died. She hid my grandpa's final voicemail, so I made sure she regretted it. I know, she said quickly. I just think we need to focus on moving forward. You wouldn't want to ruin the happiest day of our lives by bringing all this sadness into it, right? I just stared at her. She wasn't asking me to heal, she was asking me to get over it. After that, I barely spoke to her. She noticed. She kept trying to pull me back into wedding conversations, acting like everything was normal. Then I found out about the voicemail. And I realized she wasn't just selfish, she was delusional. I couldn't let it go. The voicemail, my grandpa's final message, the one my aunt assumed I had listened to, never reached me. I replayed the possibilities over and over in my mind. Maybe there was a glitch. Maybe my grandpa forgot to hit send. Maybe, just maybe, Rachel hadn't meant to hide it. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Rachel wasn't just selfish. She was controlling. She needed everything to fit her version of perfect. My grief didn't fit. My sadness didn't fit. And a voicemail from my dying grandfather? That was just another problem she needed to fix. That night, while she was asleep, I grabbed her phone. She always kept it locked, but I knew the passcode. She had been careless once, and I had memorized it. Not because I was the kind of guy who snooped, but because some part of me knew even back then that I might need it someday. I went straight to her deleted messages. And there it was. A voicemail, still sitting in the trash folder. I pressed play. My grandpa's voice was weak, but steady. "Hey, kiddo. I guess you're not picking up, but that's okay. I just wanted to say, I love you. I know things have been busy with the wedding coming up, but I'm proud of you, and I know you'll do great things. I hope I get to see you walk down the aisle, but if not, just know I'm always with you. Always." The message ended. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands shaking. She had robbed me of this moment. She had taken away my last connection to him. And she had decided that for me. I heard her stir in bed. I quickly locked the phone and slid it back onto the nightstand. I needed time to process this. I needed time to breathe. But one thing was clear. Rachel had crossed a line. And I wasn't going to marry her. The plan. The next morning, Rachel acted like everything was normal. She kissed my cheek as she got ready, chatting about bridesmaid dress fittings and final guest counts. I sat there, watching her move around the room, talking like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just deleted the last words my grandfather ever said to me. Like she hadn't stolen a moment I could never get back. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears, anger bubbling beneath the surface. But I didn't let it show. Because if Rachel had taught me anything, it was how to fake it. So I smiled. I nodded. I let her talk about wedding plans like we weren't about to fall apart.
I needed to be smart about this.
If I confronted her now, she'd play dumb. She'd twist the story, make me the bad guy for going through her phone. She'd cry, say she was just trying to protect me, claim she thought it was for my own good. I couldn't let her control the narrative. I had to be careful. I had to make sure that when I walked away, she felt it. The breakdown. Over the next few days, I started pulling back. I stopped engaging in wedding discussions. I stopped texting her during the day. I stopped pretending things were okay. She noticed. "Are you okay?" she asked one night, sitting beside me on the couch. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She reached for my hand. "You've been so distant lately." I exhaled slowly, studying her. "I guess I've just been thinking a lot about my grandpa." Her fingers twitched against mine. I saw it. That tiny flicker of irritation she tried to hide. She squeezed my hand. "I just don't want you to dwell on it too much. We have so much to look forward to, you know?" She smiled, like she was offering me some profound new perspective. Like she hadn't stolen my last connection to him. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "We do." She smiled again, relieved. She thought she had me. She had no idea what was coming next. I wasn't just going to call off the wedding. That would have been too easy. Rachel would have cried, spun the story, told everyone I was just overwhelmed with grief and needed time to sort out my feelings. She would have walked away untouched, found another guy in a few months, and moved on like nothing ever happened.
No.
She needed to feel everything she took from me. She needed to lose everything. She thought she had won, until I made her destroy herself. Rachel believed everything was back on track. So I let her think that. For another week, I played the perfect fiancé. I nodded along as she talked about cake flavors and seating arrangements, all while secretly pulling every string I needed to behind the scenes. First, I went to my family. They already had their doubts about Rachel. They saw how she dismissed my grief, how she got irritated whenever I mentioned my grandfather. But they didn't know about the voicemail.
So I told them.
I let them feel my anger, my loss, my disgust. I let them sit in the moment with me. The moment I found out she had stolen my grandpa's final words. And just like that, my entire family turned against her. Then I spoke to the vendors. I didn't cancel anything, not yet. I simply told them we were having second thoughts, that there was a chance the wedding might not happen. That way, when Rachel eventually called, they wouldn't be surprised. They'd already be expecting the bad news. Then I went after her friends. Rachel lived for appearances. She needed people to see her as the perfect bride planning the perfect wedding for her perfect life. She had a circle of friends who worshipped her, who believed every word she said. I made sure they knew exactly what she had done. I let it slip in the most subtle way possible, mentioning it in group conversations, letting their reactions do the work for me. It's crazy, you know? I just keep thinking about that voicemail. How I almost never got to hear it. Someone would bite. Wait, what voicemail? And then I'd drop it. Oh, the last message my grandpa left me before he passed. Rachel deleted it before I ever saw it. Said it was too depressing for me to hear. Silence. Then the whispers. The looks. The slow realization that Rachel wasn't who they thought she was. One by one, the people in her life started pulling away. And Rachel? She had no idea why. The final seed. A week later, I planted the final seed. We were sitting on the couch when I casually said, "Do you ever feel like something's off?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" I shrugged, acting like I was just thinking out loud. "I don't know. It just feels like the wedding is moving so fast. Sometimes, I wonder if we're making the right decision." Her entire body tensed. She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "Babe, we're just stressed. It's normal. Every couple goes through this before the wedding." I nodded slowly, then leaned in. "Maybe we should take a break." She went pale. "A break?" she echoed, laughing nervously. "Why would we do that?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I just think I need some space. I've been feeling off ever since my grandpa passed, and I don't know if I can really commit to this wedding until I feel like myself again." I could see her mind racing. Rachel couldn't handle losing control. She couldn't handle the idea of the wedding falling apart. So, I knew exactly what she would do next. She would cancel it herself. The collapse. 2 days later, the call started. First, from the wedding planner. "Hey, just wanted to check in. I got a call from Rachel today. She said you two are postponing." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "She just felt like we weren't ready." The planner hesitated. "That's surprising. She seemed so sure about everything before." "Yeah," I repeated. "She's been doing a lot of thinking." Next, the venue. Then the caterer. Then the photographer. One by one, Rachel called off our wedding. And the best part? She framed it as her decision. She told everyone she needed time. That she wasn't sure anymore. That she didn't want to make a mistake. And with every call, her perfect reputation crumbled. The realization. A week later, she finally confronted me. "You don't seem upset," she said, staring at me across the kitchen counter. I raised an eyebrow. "Upset about what?" She let out a shaky laugh. "About the wedding being canceled. You were so sure before." I shrugged. "I mean, you were the one who made the calls." Her face dropped. "You made me do that," she whispered. "You made me cancel." I tilted my head. "Did I? Or did you just do what you thought was best?" She shook her head, realizing, too late, what had happened. She thought she had control. She thought she was fixing things before I could end them first. But all she had done was destroy herself. She had told everyone she wasn't sure about the wedding. She had made the choice to cancel. She had taken away her own perfect day.
And now?
She had nothing. She let out a sharp breath, trying to recover.
"Fine.
We can take a break. Just for a little while." I smiled. "Rachel, there's no break." Her eyes widened. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment sink in. "I'm not taking time to think. I'm done. We're over." She went still, like she had finally processed the truth. "You can't just walk away," she whispered. "Not after everything we planned." I met her eyes. "You stole something from me," I said, my voice calm. You decided on your own that I didn't deserve my grandpa's last words. You don't get to make decisions for me anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. But for the first time, they weren't manipulative. For the first time, she was afraid. Because she had never thought this could happen to her. I grabbed my keys and walked to the door. I hope you enjoy explaining this to everyone, I said. Since, it was your decision and all. Then I left. And I didn't look back.